a special NFC, AFC Championship edition of the Off the Dome show. We are here in living color. We got a lot to dive into. We got two exciting games to talk about. And I got Brock joining me in a little bit to discuss the games. I'm so excited, man. I am so excited. I have purposely not done a whole lot of talking and posting on social media just because I just want to enjoy the moment of being able to say that my favorite team is in the championship round. And I'm excited, man. Cannot wait. History's being made regardless. I think this is the first time that we've had an NFC matchup in the NFC Championship game. We have the Bills and the Chiefs. The Chiefs have an opportunity to do something that no team that has won back-to-back Super Bowls have been able to do, and that's to get back to the Super Bowl to have a chance at three-peating. That's never happened before. They'll have a chance to do that on Sunday as well. It doesn't get much better than this, man. It really doesn't. I am so excited. We have a lot to dive into, but I would be remiss if we didn't talk about some changes in some franchises' front offices for a second. For those of you that may know or may not know, as you see here, my username is @__terrific Tom __ because it's infinite around here on Instagram, on X. And on Moving the Chains a couple weeks ago, I said that we should retire the moniker of Black Monday when it comes to the NFL. We should retire it. We should let it go. Because there are guys, we went live, which was Wild Card Weekend, when I said that. There were guys that were fired during Sunday's Week 18. We did have some people let go on the actual Monday itself, but then that whole rest of the week, we had guys let go still. So it was almost like the whole window of having to get rid of coaches or GMs was null and void. Okay? Guys like Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco, the list goes on and on. But it didn't stop there. Because as recent as this week, we now have some more changes in some front offices. And yesterday, we saw that, was it yesterday? Yesterday or the day before, we saw that Trent Baalke, the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars, after we all thought that he was going to stay, well, he ended up not surviving it after all. And he ended up being let go. And I don't know what's going on. Apparently it's official that Liam Cohen, who this time last week has signed an extension to stay as the Bucs offensive coordinator, apparently decided to hit a pivot, and now he's going to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And if I'm a Jaguars fan, I am very delighted to hear that news. We get a chance to see if Trevor Lawrence is remotely tolerable or not this season. We will have to see and find out. I think before I have an actual opinion formed on the situation. I kind of need to listen and learn more about what the hell happened. Like, was Cohen sitting there like, look, if you want me to be a head coach of your team, you got to get rid of that guy. Like, that guy has got to go if you want me. I don't know if that's how it went. Probably so. I have no idea. But, man, jeez. Congrats to Liam Cohen. That's kind of insane how it all has unfolded in a matter of a week and some change. But it didn't stop there, because earlier today, the Las Vegas Raiders, who hired a GM earlier on this week, who was an assistant in Tampa, if I'm not mistaken. So Jason Light's right-hand man. He becomes the new GM of the Raiders. And then next thing you know, you find out earlier this morning that the Vegas Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, Ashmir's favorite team, has decided to hire Pete Carroll as their head coach. And I am not going to lie to you, I am not sure if this is going to work or not. I'm interested to see how it all plays out. Now, the one thing I will say about a guy like Pete Carroll is that when you have experience like him, you kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt. If we're being honest, the whole reason behind him not being in Seattle today is because, like, they just wanted a new voice. Like, they didn't even want to completely kick him out. They still had him, you know, in the rooms, in the meeting rooms, day in and day out, for the past couple seasons. So you have him going back into his head coaching role that he loves near and dear to him. Head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Like I said, I have no idea how this pans out, because if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first time in his tenure, or at all, as a head coach, where he's had a top 10 pick to choose from heading into draft time. So it'll be interesting to see how him and the new GM are able to collaborate and to figure out who's going to be the future of their franchise and what the hell they're going to do with Max Crosby, because it looks like to me this guy may end up saying, deuces, I'm out. When it's all said and done, which, if I'm being honest with you, he deserves to do so. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and how they're able to get that together. But if I'm a Raiders fan today, like, I'm jumping for joy, air pumping, high-fiving. It's one of those cases where you just want to have hope again. You don't know if it's going to pan out or not. This kind of feels similar. Not similar, but I remember not so long ago when they hired Josh McDaniels to be their head coach, and we all saw how that went down. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that pans out. And then lastly, well, actually not lastly, because during this week as well, the New York Jets decided to finally, after interviewing me, you, the neighbor next door, somebody in Angola, and somebody in London, after all those interviews were constructed, they finally got their head coach. Aaron Glenn is their new head coach. And that's an interesting hire, simply because not because of Aaron Glenn himself, but you wonder if they're actually going to give him the reins to grab his own GM, which looks like that's probably what they're going to do. And if so, if they're going to allow him to kind of dictate how this roster is going to go. You have Aaron Rodgers, who is about the age of a Flintstone at this point. Do you keep him for this year? Do you want him to hit rocks? What do you do with Devontae Adams? Do you trade him? What do you do in the offseason? Because there were some reports about Garrett Wilson, who hasn't been happy as far as him not being involved in the offense this past season. So, like, what do you do with that? You have Sauce Gardner, who, you know, it seems like every tweet that goes by feels like he's, you know, feels like he is growing more and more apart from the New York Jets. Which, I mean, in his case is probably super draining. But I kind of don't blame him, because being in that franchise for as long as he has, even though it's only been 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's been kind of a tire fire. He's kind of not used to this sort of stuff. So, Sauce Gardner, you got that character going on. It's a lot of question marks that they have to figure out what they want to do. But if there's any guy that could, you know, kind of right the ship, if you will, it would be Aaron Glenn. And I look forward to seeing him making that happen. Lastly, we got to talk about it. Ben Johnson. He was hired by the Chicago Bears to be their head coach. He's already brought in some guys, Dennis Allen to be his defensive coordinator. I can't think of the guy's name, but apparently he was the Lions offensive line coach, if I'm not mistaken. He brought him along to be the OC, which I think is very interesting. And I just think it's going to be very compelling to see if this actually works, because I'm seeing a lot of people that's like, you know, thank God we got the hire that we always wanted. He's the number one guy. He's the hottest coordinator. This is still the Chicago Bears. This is still a team who, even when good things happen to them, find a way to screw it up some way, somehow. Which is unfortunate, but I'm just letting you know that's their track record. It's kind of what happens, okay? I hope it works out very well. I hope the play calling is suitable for Caleb Williams and that offense. Hopefully he can shore up the offensive line this offseason, probably through the draft, given the picks that they have. And it'll be interesting to see how he is in a head coaching role, because he's been a coordinator for majority of his career. So this will be, you know, one of those moments where he's actually going to be in a space where he gets to be chief in command and dictate a lot of what's going on in the Bears offense and be a leader of men. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out, how the guys respond to him. You can tell by his press conference, he is something. Going after LaFleur, telling Amon-Ra St. Brown, after Amon-Ra St. Brown said that they was gonna fuck him up, we have him responding that they was gonna fuck him up. So we have that whole thing going on. I do think it's interesting that he decided to go in division, which doesn't usually happen. But like I said, man, I'm excited. I am looking forward to see how these hires are able to, like, change the outlooks of some of these franchises and these rosters going forward. And it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Hopefully it all works out. Not everybody could win the Super Bowl, but hopefully some of these teams can meet their desired expectations and, being able to have a fan base that can be proud of their team. So we have that all going on in the head coaching and GM ranks. Dallas doesn't know what they're doing. Looks like it's going to be Brian Schottenheimer. We'll see how that looks. Kind of gives a lot of settling, in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe that's not the route that they go with. Could be wrong. We have the Saints, who still haven't figured out what they're going to do at head coach yet. Alvin Kamara shared that his sentiment was that they should stick with the interim guy, which I am not going to lie to you, Alvin. There has been a great track record with keeping the interim guy. Just ask the Raiders. Not necessarily because of the interim guy, but because of the front office that's having to deal with the interim guy, or vice versa. Yeah, so good luck with that, if that's the route that they end up going with. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out, man. I am so very excited for all these fan bases who get a chance to experience some sort of hope or some sort of light at the end of the tunnel after the seasons that they just finished dealing with. And yeah, like I said, man, it's gonna be a lot of fun for sure. But look, y'all already know what we came here for. Y'all know what this show is about. It is about the NFC and AFC championship game, baby. It is, and we are here to talk about it all. Now, before I get into the game that starts off first on Championship Sunday, I want to dive into the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Buffalo Bills. This is a game where it's going to be pretty wild how it will all turn out. We will find out if Josh Allen can finally get the monkey off of his back and beat Patrick Mahomes once and for all. We will find out if the Kansas City Chiefs get to make more history. It's a very compelling game. And I don't really know who to pick, honestly. Which is something that when it comes to these matchups, you like to think that you have some sort of an idea of how it's going to turn out. I have no idea how this is going to be. None whatsoever. Even with it being an Arrowhead, like, I have no idea. So hopefully by the time I give off some of these stats that I've researched and looked into, that maybe that'll kind of have a pendulum swing on how I'll feel about the ultimate prediction by the time that this show is over. So first off, the Buffalo Bills offense is very spectacular. Okay, I think if you are refusing to acknowledge that, I feel like you're kind of like, being a hater. This is a team who has put up 27 or more points in 11 of the last 13 games, which is very incredible. They have an offensive line that allowed only one sack to Baltimore last week, and Baltimore was second in sacks in this season. So the fact that they only got to Josh one time last week was pretty insane. You have that sentiment. You have the fact that when it comes to these two teams in general, the last 10 matchups between these two The record has been 5-5, and each team has scored 251 points. So either there's going to be a lot of points scored on Sunday or not at all, which I don't think that's going to happen. There's going to be some points on the board for sure. It's going to be insane. Flipping over to the Chiefs side. I know not everybody likes talking about the Chiefs, but gotta be fair here. Gotta be fair here on this show. Patrick Mahomes has not thrown an interception since, ironically, playing the Bills in Week 11, which I thought was kind of insane to see. You have a Bills defense who, against tight ends in Baltimore, did a poorest job, and I think I'm putting that very lightly, against the Ravens. They allowed 134 yards and a touchdown to Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Not a good sign, especially when the guy that you're going up against is Travis Kelce, who last week has shown that he can just literally flip a switch whenever he feels like it. And I kept trying to tell people that that is a thing that can happen, especially when you're a veteran in this league and you just preserve your body for when it matters most. How does 8 targets, 7 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown sound to you? They have a little bit on their plate here. They have a little bit on their plate here. I have said this on the Moving the Chains last week. By the way, I will be on Moving the Chains this upcoming Sunday. So look forward to seeing that. I think we'll be at our original start time, which is 11 a.m. Eastern time. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. But Moving the Chains will be this Sunday. Okay. Now, last week I had went on a mini rant where I had discussed the whole thing about the Kansas City Chiefs and the whole idea of, the refs playing against the refs. It's us against the refs. It's the Chiefs and the refs against us. We can't beat them both. And I said it before, I said it then, and I'll say it now. Guys, I don't know why we're being naive and acting like we never seen this before, because this is definitely something similar to the Patriots dynasty, where similar things were happening when it came to the refs, especially if you had to go to Foxborough. It was a thing that happened. You couldn't ignore it. It was a thing. Okay? Now, here's the thing that I want to bring up as well, because I think what bothers me about this whole ref conversation is that I feel like we don't hold the opposing team accountable enough when they play against Kansas City, which led to kind of the rant that I had last week, where I'm hearing a lot of Texans fans and a lot of fans say, "We were robbed. We were robbed."
It should have been us. They shouldn't have called that. Oh my goodness. Penalty here, penalty there. How are we supposed to beat them?
Guys. As much as you love to go there, and I am not excusing the refs because some of those calls are bad. Yes, I am aware of that. But if we're supposed to act like refs are not allowed to make mistakes, I don't know what to tell you. Number one. Number two is, what did you do on your end to not put yourself in that position? Okay? The Houston game last week. They had an opportunity to have possession to start off the game with a massive return. And then costed themselves with a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which ended up being the Chiefs' ball, and the Chiefs ended up scoring on that following drive. You have missed extra points. We have missed field goals. We have turnovers. All these different moments where you had an opportunity to put points on the board, or at the very least have a defense capable enough to get the Chiefs off the field. And yet, here we are, and you're missing extra points, like I said, field goals, leaving points on the board, and yet we want to talk about the refs. Guys, I'm sorry. The refs don't get to determine how your kicker kicks the football. It does not determine if your guys are undisciplined enough to be weary of the refs and what they're going to be looking out for. Like, I mean, I've said it before and I said it again. This is the reason why home field advantage is very important. Like, guys, you do understand that you're going on the road against Kansas City in Kansas City. What do you expect to happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of my thing. Like, what do you honestly expect to happen here? Which has always been my retort. But I mean, hey, look, y'all gonna talk about the refs all day long. And look, if that's what you're gonna do and that's what you want to spend your time doing, then by all means, I ain't gonna stop you. But I think we need to do a better job of holding some of these opposing teams that play Kansas City, especially if they're playing against them in Kansas City, that if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, you don't have to worry about having the refs get involved as much. Just saying. So I just wanted to put that out there. But that's just my 2 cents on it. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. Because I like I said, man, it's driving me nuts at this point that we have to keep going over this year in and year out like we haven't seen this number before. But yeah, that's just where I stand on that front. But we are about to go to a commercial break. This is the Off the Dome show, and we'll be right back with you, baby.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. Hashtag built for the wild.
Streetwear is not dead. The next wave of black fashion comes out of the Bronx, New York. Rich Kid Clothing, picking up where FUBU, Rockaware, and Kyle Kanai left off. Rich Kid is for the next generation of Get Fly fashion heads. Use promo code MELLOW23 for 15% off your next order. And for orders over $100, there is free shipping. Again, use promo code MELLOW23 for 15% off your next order.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Off the Dome show on a special championship Sunday edition. So excited. We already talked about the Chiefs and Bills in the first half, if you will. Let us know in the comments who you have winning that game. I'm pretty sure I'm going to see a lot of Bills, and not talk about the ones that I have to pay in a little bit. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people have been asking me and have been wondering, because they have. There's another game. There's another game that is upon us that starts off championship weekend, championship Sunday. It features two teams in the NFC East, and one of them has your favorite team in it, and one of them has a rookie who's had the best rookie season in NFL history. Yes, it is time to talk about the Washington Commanders going on the road to the lovely Fly Eagles Fly Philadelphia Eagles, baby. Now, there's a lot to dive into when it comes to this game. And I promise you, I'll tell you in advance, because I could already see it coming. I could already hear it now.
He's going to be very biased. There's going to be nothing but bad things to say about Washington. And he's just going to gloat about how good Philly is.
Guys, not this guy. Not this Philly fan, at least. Okay? Now, let's start off with Washington first. Okay? Oh, actually, we got some breaking news. Breaking news. Houston Texans have parted ways with offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. Wow. Okay. This is from Ian Rappaport reporting. Bobby Slowick is out in Houston. Wow. Okay. Whoa. Now, seeing that news is kind of confusing to me, because I feel like this time last year we were talking about him getting a head coaching job because his offense was doing so well. Man. Okay. Okay, Houston. I mean, this is one of those moments in times where it's like, look. I think you know what you're doing, so I'm gonna just let you do your thing, I guess. But this time last year, he was in the conversation for getting a head coaching job. Like, he was getting head coaching interviews. Now Houston's offense was kind of fraudulent. To say the least, suspect at best, if you will. But I don't think that was in large part due to him. Now, maybe that's what I get for not watching a whole lot of Texans games. But I don't think that those miscues offensively had a lot to do with the play calling being an issue. I think it was more so of the fact that they lost for like literally majority of the season. They lost all three of their top receivers. Stephon Diggs early on the year, tore ACL, gone. Nico Collins for a large stint of the year, hamstring, gone. Tank Dell, we all know what happened to him towards the end of the season, gone. So you have that, and then you just had a turnstile of an offensive line that CJ had to deal with. I don't know about this move, man. I don't know about this move at all. I'm gonna be honest with you, because I don't think that was all entirely his fault. I think it was the personnel that he was trying to conjure up that he couldn't, which was kind of an issue. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Texans fans, if y'all, if y'all have a different perspective or a different take on it, let me know. Let us know. But I don't know. I'm not too sure about that one. I'm not too sure about that one at all. Yeah, like this time last year, he was getting head coaching interviews. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But back to the Washington Philly game. I want to start off with Washington first. Now, we all know the season that they have had has been nothing short of unprecedented. As an Eagles fan, I just kind of stand in amazement with what they've been able to do in this season alone, because this was a team that we knew that they got their guy in Jayden Daniels. We knew that. We were all sure of it when they drafted him back in April. And since then, like, we were kind of wondering if it was too good to be true. Like, okay, 7 wins, start off the year. Like, okay. Like, that seems too good to be true. Okay, whatever. Yeah, the questions about who they really beat and all this other stuff. But, man, this team is no joke. And like I said earlier, Jayden Daniels is not a rookie. I think that's fair for me to say. He's playing out there like he is a veteran that's been doing this for a long time. And it's just been incredible to watch. Yeah, I mean, even as an Eagles fan, like it's been insane to watch him play in the manner that he has, because he plays so free. You look at guys like Lamar and Josh Allen. You look at these guys and you watch them play, and there's times where it just feels like they're just freelancing, just having fun out there, roaming around, picking their spots, dissecting the defense, just having fun. And when you watch Jayden Daniels command that offense in the manner that he does, he just looks like he's having fun out there. Which is concerning, because as he's having fun, he's torching your defense. So there's that element. But in Washington's case, it's incredible. Speaking of Daniels, so far in this postseason, he's had 4 touchdowns, 567 yards. He's hard to stop. Okay. He led an offense last week against the number 1 seed in the Detroit Lions to ignite 45 points. Yes, 45 points. And they went third, and they went 3 for 4 on 4th down. Now look, that's some Madden stuff to me, because like the only time you see people go on 4th down is if you're playing Madden, guys. Like, that's it. Apparently they implement that in real life too, and they do a pretty good job at it. It was impressive to watch and see how they just kind of like forced Detroit to really be as dominant as they were. It was incredible. Their defense was just as good. Had 5 turnovers against those Detroit Lions. Which, given 3 of them being interceptions of Jared Goff, a guy who was top 5 in passing this year. You can't dismiss that at all. You have the running game. I know a lot of people talk about Jayden Daniels in the running game, and yes, he's effective as well. But Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, I think the duo of them two is a lot more dangerous than people give him credit for. Brian Robinson last week 77 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Guys, like, they run the ball effectively, and they do it pretty well. So you got to look out for their running game. You got to look out for Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin, I don't think there's been a game in the last 9 games where he's had under 80 yards receiving. So that shows you how prominent he's been throughout the course of this season. And then it's Philly. Now, I got to start off with the bad before I get to the good, because that's just how I operate around here. The Eagles' offensive line was not great last week. I understand it was a Snow Bowl. I understand that there was a lot of slick conditions going on. People couldn't stay on their feet. It was cold. It was frigid. Yes. I'm aware. Okay. They did allow 7 sacks last week. 7. I'll say it again. This Eagles offensive line, a lot of people say that it's the best in the league. I say it's one of the best. I don't want to easily tout them in that discussion for the very best. But for one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, you allowed 7 sacks. 7. Not good. Not good at all. Now, the good thing in their favor, I guess, is that they're going up against a Washington defense who had 2 sacks last week and doesn't really have a tendency of getting to the quarterback as often this season. So that does work into their favor. But yeah, that can't happen again if they expect for Philly to have a chance to win this game. Jalen Hurts. Now, I personally have given him a lot of grace because he is just getting back from concussion protocol. He's still recovering. You can tell with some of his decision making in the past 2 games against Green Bay and against Rams last week. But at the same time, to be under 180 yards passing in 6 of the last 7 games is kind of a shame. We're having outputs where AJ Brown has only had 24 yards receiving in this postseason so far. Not ideal. Devontae Smith had 24 yards last week. Not ideal. Dallas Goedert did lead everybody in receiving yards, I guess, so that was cool. Had 46 yards, but again, not ideal. That's the struggle point, I think, for Philly. Is I don't know how Kellen Moore is going to draw it up. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know if it's a Kellen Moore play calling issue or Jalen is just still trying to knock the rust off. I have no idea, but I just think it's very interesting how it's been playing out so far in these playoffs. I really do. It's kind of crazy, honestly. And I feel like I do feel like the discourse with Jalen Hurts is a little bit bothersome for me. Not because I'm a homer. Like I'm, like I said, I've been critical of him. I was critical of him on Moving the Chains last week. It's not changing this time around. But I think last week was a prime example of why, like, I get annoyed with the discourse when it comes to him sometimes. Because you look at his stat line, then you look at Josh Allen's stat line, and then you look at Patrick Mahomes' stat line. And two of those guys throughout all this week has been lauded as them having a spectacular performance and them doing a great job. Everybody, praising them for, them doing a great job of playing quarterback. And this is not to take anything away from what they did, because they did exactly what they needed to do to win the game. But when it comes to Jalen, it's like Jalen is like, yeah, you had the similar stats, but like it's not really the same. You don't have the same effect. So we're gonna act like you're completely ass, which I don't think is completely true, guys. Like, I get it. He's not. I understand that he is not the Patrick Mahomes, the Joe Burrow, the Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons. I get all that. I understand that he is not necessarily in that class as far as talent is concerned. But I am starting to get to a place to where I am tired of us acting like he can't play quarterback. That is starting to get really, really old for me. Because the issues that we had with Jalen for the beginning of this year and last year, and even in small parts in the 2022 season, like, he has a case of turning the football over. This playoff so far, he hasn't turned the football over. He hasn't given the game away. Now, do you want to say he holds the ball too long and could throw it away sometimes? Sure, absolutely. Do you think that he should involve Devontae and AJ a little bit more in the offense? Absolutely. But to say that he is just like completely the scum of the earth and that he can't play his position well is kind of ludicrous to me. I'm be honest with y'all. So, I'm not gonna lie, man. It's one of those cases, where, like, it's one of those cases where you sit there, you kind of go like, okay, like, what is the real conversation when it comes to Jalen? Like, are we just kind of hating on him just for the sake of hating on him, or what? I don't know, but like, they all had similar stats last week, and two of them are getting the conversation for being the second coming of Jesus Christ, and the other one is just talked about as if he's like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. It's just kind of weird for me. I know it's kind of a weird tangent, but it's the truth. Outside of that, Saquon Barkley. When this season is done and it's all said and done, I will eventually come up with a jingle, a song, a TikTok or something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something to commemorate the New York Giants for gifting us Saquon Barkley on a silver platter. It is unbelievable what he's been able to do for us this year. It's been nothing short of spectacular. Now, you're probably wondering, like, okay, how is he against Washington this year? How does 145 plus rushing yards in each game that they've played sound to you? Or how about having a little bit of recency bias? I just saw him have a 205-yard performance against the Los Angeles Rams in that Snow Bowl last week. Incredible sight to behold. It was spectacular. I think it's fair to say he's pretty good at football. Just saying. But yeah, Saquon Barkley, him having the rushing season that he's had, 2,000 yards on the season, on top of what he's been able to do as of late, is nothing short of spectacular. You have a Washington defense, might I add, who has allowed 4.9 yards per carry against the run this season, which is tied for 30th. So I think this is one of those cases where if they can get the ball running, if they can get the ball rolling with Saquon, it may be a long afternoon for the Commanders defense, I might add. Now, on the flip side, the Eagles defense is not too shabby as well. You can make the argument, if not just flat out say that they are the best defense in the league, or at least playing like it right now. They themselves last week had 5 sacks. So they have an opportunity to get to the quarterback. The problem was with the way that the defense was performing was that Matthew Stafford still had 320 plus yards, 324 yards to be exact, passing, and he didn't throw an interception. So, especially when you're going against a guy like Jaden Daniels, who is very effective and very accurate with throwing the football, got to be wary on how that's going to plan out. It'll be interesting to see how. It's going to be very interesting to see how Marshawn Lattimore and AJ play. It's going to be interesting to see how Darius Slay and De'Ami Brown it looks like emerges as their wide receiver too for Washington. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. It's going to be interesting to see how Quinyon Mitchell does against Terry McLaurin. It's going to be a lot of fun between those matchups, and yeah, man, I don't know. It's going to be very exciting to see how this game goes. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine who is a Commanders fan. Shout out to Trey. Hope you're doing well. Had a conversation with him yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, the day before. Sorry, I'm getting my days mixed up. Lots going on around here. Where I was just sharing with him, like, look, man, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of trash talking. I'm just glad that I'm able to witness history and to watch a matchup where two teams are, they're fighting to be in the Super Bowl, and one of my teams, like my favorite team, is in that conversation, which is pretty cool. And to know that this is the first NFC East matchup that has been played in an NFC Championship game, like, it doesn't get much better than that. So as much as I, and of course I'm going to be riding with Philly because I'm not going to go against my home team here. But as much as that is the case, regardless of whether it's win, lose, or draw, I think the fact that we can say that we were able to witness something like that is incredible. And honestly, it's really nothing like it. It really isn't. So, yeah, man. I would have to say that, I'm by default, I'm gonna take Philly. Now, final scores, I don't know. Get back to me on moving the chains about that one. But as far as the final score, I'm not sure. But I'm not going against my home team by default. So it looks like I got Philly winning that game and being NFC champions in the Super Bowl, which is awesome. As far as Buffalo and Kansas City, man, look, man, sheesh, man, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea. Something tells me that I want to lean towards Buffalo. like I really, really want to. But then there's a part of me too that wants me to witness history too. And having to watch the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl to have a chance at three-peating is something that we never would imagine would happen in the history of the NFL. There's been opportunities for teams to pull it off, and they never got as close as Kansas City has. And I'm not going to lie, y'all. I'm a sucker for history. I really am. I would love to see it. I mean, and you know what? I think another element too is I would love for us to have some revenge against Kansas City so we can ruin that three-peat on our own veil, if you will. So off of that alone, I want us to have Kansas City. I want us to have Kansas City in the Super Bowl so we can have a chance to avenge the year that was 2022 and we can right our wrongs. And I think both games are going to be close. I think the only game that really has an opportunity for it to be a blowout would probably be the Philly game, simply because of the talent discrepancy. But we all have seen how much that, I don't know, doesn't matter when it comes to the playoffs. It's who's hot and who's disciplined enough to not make the mistakes necessary that's going to cost you the game. Those are the teams that end up going very, very far. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that unfolds. So very excited to watch the games this Sunday. Again, we have Washington going to Philly. That game starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, you have Bills Chiefs, who start at 6. So look, man, I cannot wait. So excited. It's going to be interesting to see what the conditions are going to be like in Philly and in Kansas City. You know, I know on the East Coast, there's been a lot of snow in a lot of different areas up and down the East Coast. So who knows? We might end up having to deal with another snow performance again in Philly. We have to see. Kansas City, we all know how tempting it could be to be like under 7 degrees. So it'll be interesting to see what the weather looks like and how much of a factor that will have on the games. But yeah, man, I am pumped. They cannot be here sooner enough. And I cannot wait, man. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Thank y'all so much for joining me on this spectacular championship edition of the Off the Dome show. I am your host, Thomas Brown Jr. You can follow me right here at _ terrific Tom _ because it's infinite around here on all of my socials, Instagram, X. That's where you can follow me at, and we can chat ball all day long. I have time, or at least the availability to do so at the very least. So if you ever want to, talk some ball about your team, or have any questions about your team, or anything going on in the NFL, I'm your guy. I'll be a part of Moving the Chains this Sunday, which will be very exciting. Looking forward to be a part of that. Gotta have some championship representation in there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to dive into that. And Yeah, man. Fly, Eagles, fly. Congratulations to all the teams that are in the championship games this Sunday. Look forward to seeing who wins. Can't wait to react to them all. Hopefully it is my team that ends up in the Super Bowl against whoever it is. Honestly, if I wanted to, if I wanted to be that guy, I would love to see Buffalo and Philly, because we're talking about two fan bases who can go berserk regardless of who wins. And Buffalo, if they end up winning the Super Bowl, like, I wouldn't be mad at it, because that would be a massive monkey off of their back, and they can finally say that they've done it. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But we shall see, man. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, follow us on all of our platforms: X, Instagram, our website, teammbsmedia.com. Here on YouTube, Team MBS Media. Share with all your friends, all your loved ones. It's going to be a very packed weekend. We're going to be discussing a lot, reacting to a lot, especially with it being Championship Sunday upon us. Cannot wait. I'm so excited, man. So, yeah. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. See y'all again. Remember, it's Fridays, every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Off the Dome Show. Cannot wait to see you there. Thank you, friends. And lastly, join us.